Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Late Night Learning. I am your host, Dr. Anthony Palomba. Now today we're going to be wrapping up my discussion on data visualization. In the last lecture, we went through where audiences' eyes land and in a greater discussion about where we can situate contrast on a slide. Where can we color? Where can we not color? How do we create contrast so that we can really highlight what we want our audience to know, what we want them to walk away with, and to get them to begin thinking about what's on the slide and then go right back to the business presenter himself or herself. In this particular lecture, we're going to be wrapping up by looking at images and thinking about how to present statistics in a way that is story-driven. Let's get started. So where I last left you was thinking about what does the image do? Is there a close-up for emotion, a wide shot to capture activity or set the scene? Is the camera looking down at a subject or is it looking up? And if you're thinking about this, you can take the coffee cup or cell phone that you have in front of you, look down at it, and then look at it from above. It's two different perspectives. I know we don't really think about this when we're thinking about a business presentation, but the way that an image is captured is very vital to signifying some sort of meaning. Does the image look at the audience? This can create higher engagement. Included in the story, is the image conducive to reading from left to right? It probably gives more weight to where our eyes finish, right? We always finish on the right side. Till death, we do art. That's impactful. It's probably more impactful that I had this image on the right-hand side of the slide rather than the left. Let's keep going. In selecting images, what's the message? Who's the audience? What is the story we want to tell? What do we want the audience to do? What kind of image is most likely to get their attention? And these are tough decisions, as this little boy is grappling with. But we want to be purposeful in every aspect of what we do in a deck. Let's keep going. Filters, videos, and images. Let's keep going. Where are you storing your financial nut? 14% of U.S. adults haven't saved for retirement. Call us today to help you squirrel away your future. Northwestern Mutual. Now, I made this slide up. I created this. I created the contrast. I put the fonts together. There are probably better ways of showcasing this, but this is enough to give you a sense of, one, I knew all of your eyes would land on the squirrel, which is hysterical. Two, you'd probably look down to see where you financial nut. Where are you storing your financial nut? This is a bit jarring. To the bottom left-hand side, I had the call out a bit bigger with the number. 14% of U.S. adults haven't saved for retirement. That haven't saved for retirement could probably be bolded. I think you can make a case for that. Call us today to help squirrel away your future. I'm approaching dad age, or young dad age, and so I'm starting to get into puns a bit more than I care to admit. So together here, we can quickly see that a story is being told and it's pulling people in. There's high engagement here. You literally have a squirrel staring at you. And it might even begin kind of an introspective reflection of, have I saved enough for retirement? Like, I get the joke, but have I saved enough? It's funny, it's interesting, it probably stopped some of your trains of thought during class. And it's enough information that a business presenter could probably elaborate a bit more on the 14%. Let's keep going. This slide I also created. So 500,000 homeless people in the United States in 2019. Donate online at National Coalition for the Homeless. It's kind of persuasive. That image is very difficult to leave. Poor dog in a blanket. Owner's not doing much better. This is somber. It's sad. Let's see other derivations of this slide. 500,000 homeless people living on the streets in the United States. It's interesting. We can't really see the gentleman's face. Maybe we don't need to. Maybe the dog is more sympathetic or empathetic for the audience. Maybe that works a bit better. Let's keep going. This is a different way. 500,000 homeless people living on the streets in the United States. The eyedropper, which you can use in PowerPoint, which is under colors, can take any color from any image and manipulate it so that you can use that color. So I dragged it over the dog's blanket and I highlighted the 500,000. A very simple gesture, but thought-provoking. And it hits you. Because then you begin to think about 500,000 dogs, maybe with 500,000 homeless people. Poor dog, poor person. Neither one of them can take care of themselves. This is tragic. We begin to create empathy around a statistic. Let's keep going. You can blur it out as well for greater focus. Maybe the focus isn't on these people. Perhaps the real story is this statistic, and that we really don't need to know what the dog or person looks like, because for many homeless people on the streets, we don't really know what they look like. They become forgettable to us. They've been forgotten by society. Maybe it's best we don't know their identity. It hits closer to home. It could be anybody. Let's keep going. And then we also have kind of a washout gray, black and white. The 500,000 is punched up a bit more here. Let's keep going. This is what I wanted to show you. 10% increase in chance of being homeless. For every month, a mortgage bill remains unpaid. Working with our customers to refinance mortgages will keep them in their homes. It's pretty jarring. What statistic is this? Is it a stat, a descriptive stat, a correlation? Could it be from a regression? Could be all of those things. Doesn't matter though. Your audience is interested in the relationship in the multivariate statistic, but not much else. This 10% increase in chance of becoming homeless for every month a mortgage bill remains unpaid could be anything from a time series analysis to some sort of linear regression. It could come from anywhere. But while people may not care about a conjoint, a regression, what the nitty-gritty is, the relationships that are engendered and produced from multivariate statistics are important. Nobody cares about an R-squared, the coefficient of determination, until you say, well, this explains 40% of brand loyalty among consumers. That people can understand. People can connect to that. Think about what the relationship is in the multivariate statistics that you run. You're in conjoint right now. You're dealing with utilities. You're dealing with levels of preferences. You're dealing with attributes. Start thinking about why an unfamiliar audience with conjoint might care. Remember, the relationships in multivariate statistics are important. The output and the other stuff become less important to people unfamiliar with statistics. Let's keep going. So this gets into multivariate reporting and visual storytelling. What is the relationship that is stated here? And really walk yourselves through what everything tests Where are your independent variables? Where are your dependent variables? Are you explaining variation? Variation in what? Is variation a bit too technical for some people in your audience? Is there a better way to articulate this? What do we want to say about the relationship that is stated here to meet the presentation objective? What do we need to know? What do we want our audience to do about the relationship that is stated here? When you're done doing your data analysis, think about these questions. Okay, this is what happened in the conjoint. What does it say about how price sensitive our audience is? What does it say about our competitors? What does it say about different attributes that are preferred over other attributes? What does it say about other levels? If you run a max diff, you might be looking at all of the levels in one particular attribute. So it's thinking about just ways that we can carefully and delicately explain a relationship here. Let's keep going. So putting it all together, so to kind of wrap this up, I want to look at a few examples, good and bad, in putting things together. Color, visuals, imagery. I want us to note what's good. I want us to know what's bad. Let's keep going. Descriptive statistics. So this is out of a survey. This is output, right? We always look at output first. So it might be output from SPSS. We might be looking at F-scores or p-values. We might be looking at beta coefficients. You're doing conjoint, so you're looking at utilities and levels of preferences and all of that other stuff related to conjoint. So here we have a statement, I believe I need to take a beach vacation in the next year. It's not surprising, top two box is about 80%. That means about 80% of people who answered this question highly agreed or strongly agreed. Well, there's something there to be sure. And granted, I am not presenting a correlation, I'm not presenting a regression, there's no factor analysis here, but a descriptive statistic can still be called out. It's still important information. But we need to present this in a way that is captivating, that pulls people in and makes people want to act on this. Let's see what we can do. Descriptive statistics, stats, 80% of millennials believe they need to take a vacation. Situation, we are Kayak, and we have just received the statistic from a survey in an Excel file from Nielsen, a market research vendor. Presentation. Our presentation focuses on our digital marketing efforts to persuade Kayak millennial consumers to book beach vacations to raise Q3 profits. Audience, Kayak employees, several managers, and several executives. Call to action. We want our millennial consumers to start booking trips to the beach. Okay, so let's see what we came up with. 80% of millennials want to take a beach vacation in the next year. What works with this slide? What doesn't work with this slide? Well, for one, yeah, you may need a beach here. So I don't know that this really tackles it. It's a nice image. The water maps well with the blue rectangle to the left of the slide. The call-out's nice. It's been cited. Let's see if we can look at this differently. 80% of millennials want to take a beach vacation in the next year. Chances are your eyes on the last slide went to the feet, so the 80% hovering over the feet is quite effective. It kind of hits people quickly when we're having this discussion. Let's keep going. So maybe we can do this a bit better. 80% of millennials want to take a beach vacation in the next year. So where are you going? So this might be some sort of infographic for millennials, for consumers. It could be for other people in the audience to get them to think about their own beach vacations, to help spur them to send out digital marketing efforts for beach vacations. Let's keep going. And again, we can envision somebody on a beach somewhere enjoying it, right? So there are different levels in which this statistic can be represented, both good and bad. And there are issues with all of these slides. That's why I made them this way. So it's really critical to take a step back and think about where your audience's eyes are landing, what you're telling them, and where does this fit in your presentation. Let's keep going. Correlation. This is a multivariate statistic that you've gone through that you can, or a really binary variable statistic that you've gone through. So there's a strong relationship between couples who vacation 2 times a year and wedding ring purchases. Great. The beta is 0.82. It's positive, so it's strong. We have a direction. The p-value is less than 0.001. So we really have a very, very small chance of making an error here. It's about 1 in 1,000 if I'm reading that correctly. Situation, we are a market research firm. Our audience consists of international jeweler chains in DC and Chicago. Our presentation is built to educate jewelers about trends in wedding purchases to help them raise their own market shares. Call to action, we want our audience to shift marketing to attract millennial consumers to make wedding rings purchases. Let's see how we made this. So we can see here, and this is frozen. This is actually supposed to be a video, but it's fine for our purposes. There's a strong and positive correlation between the amount of vacations couples take and their inclination to purchase wedding rings. Recommendation, place digital marketing on travel websites and deploy pop-up stores on vacation destinations. So this is a fun slide. It's lovey-dovey. The pink works out very well, but the story is kind of all over the place. There might be a way to better organize the language on this slide so that it reads well. And maybe it's placing it all on the left-hand side or shifting it in another way that makes it easier to read. Let's keep going. This will be the last thing that we go over today, regression. So I ran a regression. It seems to be that young people who have an indulgent lifestyle explain 17% of the model. Let's see what the model is. We are an advertising firm. A movie studio client is seeking to improve movie offerings to millennials and Gen Z consumers. Our presentation is built in educating 3 executives working at a movie studio across marketing, finance, and sales regarding how millennials and Gen Z consume movies and how they can position future movies to gain market shares across platform use. We want our audience members to invest in movie content that is produced for platforms that millennials and Gen Z consumers own and engage. So this is our output. So let's say that this contains our DV. So this is from a study that I published. I'm just borrowing a table. You'll see the dependent variables, the DVs, are laptop, desktop, and smartphone. I've highlighted the regression for laptop. You can see the amount of IVs here. No, there was no multicollinearity. That was something I was sensitive to, as all of you should be. 17% of the model was explained. Young people with an indulgent lifestyle tended to watch movies on laptops. Great. But people don't care about R-squared. People don't care about linear regressions, really. So what's a story here that can be stated? Let's see. 17% of laptop movie consumption is informed by youth and having an indulgent lifestyle. Recommendation, create movies that are adaptable to smaller screens. Think about what's wrong with this slide. Think about what this slide does well. Slide is simple, easy to read. You can get in, get out. You can have this conversation. What are some shortcomings? Well, the language might be kind of cramped. There might be a better way to articulate this. Additionally, there's a lot of negative space above the young lady's head. And so there might be something else that we can fill it with. Perhaps we can put some of this on the wall behind her, and then stretch out the recommendation in the blue rectangle, right? That might be something that we can do here. Let's keep going. And this is another way to do it. So in thinking about all of this, it's really important to think about what our color schemes are, what our images are, and what is the story that we're trying to craft. When we do these things, we begin to create a business presentation that is not only informing our audiences, but is telling a story to our audiences. In thinking about your business presentation, go through and really reflect on all that we've covered in data visualizations. I know that it's been a lot. You want to think about your audience first. Who are they? What do they know? Be consumer-centric, be audience-centric. Think about the people in front of you. It's about them, not you. Think about creating contrasts. The ways in which that we can get in and get out of a slide is crucial. And finally, you want to think about the natural story arc. Where do we tell good news? Where do we tell negative news? How do we tell these kinds of stories? And in thinking about how do we tell stories surrounding statistics, and in thinking about different ways that we can articulate the meaning behind a regression, the meaning behind a factor analysis, the meaning behind a conjoint, such that everybody in the room can follow. When we have this cohesive flow between ourselves and the audience, it allays our concerns for nervousness, it allays our concerns for our people understanding this, our people following me. By doing these things, we have more control over our presentation, and ultimately we deliver a better product to our stakeholders who are in the audience. Well, that's all the time we have on Late Night Learning. As always, keep laughing and keep learning.